Maye destroys the goddamn Commanders, and then Shedeur has a duel off with the Panthers. And then, guys, the Lions and Falcons game sadly gets suspended. Guys, let's talk sports. Man, guys, let me tell you something. Week 1 of preseason has been kicking off beautifully. I mean, look, last night's games, they were definitely something. But, Friday night's games, I mean, holy shit, guys. There was just so much action in each of these preseason games. The only one that didn't have much action, I would say, is probably the Lions versus the Falcons. As y'all know, my favorite goddamn team in the world. But, their preseason run is definitely getting very questionable as we keep going on with this preseason talk. Guys, we got today, we had the Lions and the Falcons today, guys. The score for that game was 17-10. Some, early thoughts about this game was, of course, the injury. I mean, the injury was just so painful to watch. I mean, to hear that this guy's teeth fell out, and that's how this game ends. Both coaches just absolutely not starstruck, that's the wrong word to say, more like mortified, and that's very understandably so. I mean, when you're sitting there watching the game, you don't really see what's happening, but those players and coaches, etc., they see what's going on, and it's just, heartbreaking to see. Especially, guys, one of my favorite teams. And this game was getting good. I mean, the first couple of quarters, the Lions weren't really doing anything. It was mostly the Falcons kind of taking over. But then the Lions start picking it up on the third quarter, and then, this injury happens at the fourth quarter, around 14. And it's just really disappointing to see, really shocking to see that happening. And to go over, I will say the Lions' performance in the first, couple quarters wasn't that good. I mean, we got a field goal in. That was nice to see. I'm glad they finally tied it up. But, the Falcons' offense, too, wasn't playing at their best either, the score was 3 for most of the time. Then there was finally a touchdown getting it to 10, but, it just really felt like, the Falcons just weren't really on, their speed, in my opinion. So I guess that's really a disappointing factor. But, other than that, the heartbreaking injury, it was definitely something. And, it's a great reminder that, these players are goddamn human. And also, too, guys, Lions, I really need these motherfuckers to pick up the pace on the the preseason. I mean, to get washed your first preseason game, and then this game to completely get washed most of the game, too. It's just like, holy shit, can we really get it together? I mean, how many, more camp reps do we goddamn need to finally start throwing a goddamn pass? It was just so disappointing to see the Lions play with, again, no intensity with the offense. I did see the defense really, step up to the plate this game, and that was definitely the big difference. I would say why the Falcons stayed at 3 most of the time. The injury factor definitely turned this pretty much shaking up to be a really good game. It really turned into a grim watch, watching that hit. Watching, the whole players line up and do a little prayer, in the circle. Definitely a beautiful sight to behold. It's just unfortunate that it had to be somebody's life. And, when you see injuries like that, when you see, those type of hits, it's usually an indicator that career's possibly over, but you're hoping for the best. But, these life-threatening injuries, having all your teeth fall out, that's definitely going to be a very big concern. And that's why everybody was so goddamn emotional at the end of this game. And they did something that hasn't been done or seen before in a little bit, just letting the time run out. The players were lining up to snap, but, they couldn't snap, and very understandable. They were just standing there talking, just letting that clock run out. And it was definitely a beautiful sight to be seen. Really disappointing, that this game had to get suspended at the end, but, I'm really glad that the game did get suspended, No more injuries like that needed to be happening, especially a preseason game. And these are your, like, third or second string players trying to earn a spot, to stay in the team. So you don't want those players also, having their lives getting ruined. And sadly, another player just had to have that happen. It's definitely really sad to see. Hoping the best. This final 17-10 doesn't really tell the story here. The Falcons gave up at the end. And also, too, the Lions gave up at the end, too. So, we're not really counting this preseason game as really much of a win. But, it was very heartbreaking to see the events definitely transpire. But let's move on now, guys, and let's talk about one of the main headlining preseason games. We had Shedeur Sanders dueling the Panthers for the first time to see if the college quarterback days can really show out for the NFL. So we're going to be talking about that next right after this break, guys. Now this game against the Cleveland Browns against the Panthers, guys, I'm not going to lie. The first half of this game, I was like, wow, we're in for a ride. We're in for the Cleveland Browns already making so many mistakes. There was even a fight in the game. 2 players had to get kicked out of the game, which was so funny to see. A preseason game, the emotions are already goddamn high. And I can't even lie, guys. When Shedeur Sanders came on there, maybe we were a little bit worried for him, because the offensive line, at the start of the game, they were kind of breaking apart. I mean, there was moments where the defensive line just ran through the Cleveland Browns' offensive line. At sometimes it was point embarrassing. I mean, Shedeur Sanders this man was running for his goddamn life. They were saying that, one of his specialties is not scrambling the ball, but I feel like with how the offensive line today with the Cleveland Browns, it kind of forced Shedeur Sanders to start scrambling all over the goddamn place because, I mean, they were already at the line. So, there was some punts. I mean, the beginning there was a few punts, but, I mean, the Panthers, they had 1 touchdown. They had 1 good drive. Bryce Hall came in there and he had 1 good drive. He really threw that goddamn rock. And, they got 1 good scoring touchdown. I was kind of surprised. The man came down there and immediately throwing deep balls, immediately catching the goddamn ball. It was just like, all right, the Panthers are going crazy. And then, as the traditional Panthers fashion, you go a little bit crazy in the first quarter. You get a couple of touchdowns. And then you kind of just give up. You kind of just let the other team just kick the crap out of you, beat your goddamn ass. It's just like, it's just kind of laughable sometimes. The Panthers just kind of put their heads down and just let the Cleveland Browns just completely dominate them, which, letting the Cleveland Browns dominate you is just such a, sad sight to see. But I'm not going to lie, guys. Once Shedeur Sanders finally got comfortable, man started, getting quicker throwing the pass because, college ball is a lot slower. And then a lot of times when, these rookie quarterbacks come in for the NFL, the play time, the reaction time of defenders is a lot more faster in the NFL. And then the quarterback needs to get the ball off very fast. They need to get the plays off quicker because the NFL is way much more quicker, way much more faster. And you definitely seen that in the beginning when, Shedeur Sanders is, completely getting his ass trampled. I mean, there was even a sack in the beginning. But once he got comfortable, started making some really good scrambles. There were some moments where he scrambled to the first down line, which was really nice to see. I really did enjoy watching that. Then these really quick throws, some really great dart passes too. I mean, these passes that just look so beautiful to see. I mean, holy shit. Some great 2 touchdown passes, getting 2 touchdowns. I would say, guys, for the performance of Shedeur Sanders, it was a really great performance. I mean, there was some mess-ups, there was some hiccups, but then it finally evened out, and they actually took the lead in the second half of the game. They actually took the lead against the Panthers. The Panthers were winning. I mean, let's be real, the Panthers had the winning score for a little bit in this game, but then, Shedeur Sanders stepped up to the plate, took the team on his back, and absolutely got 2 touchdown drives, which was really good to see. I'll be honest, guys. I was wondering, is Shedeur Sanders going to put that same level into the NFL? A lot of college players sometimes, once they get into the NFL, you see him close up. You see him not really, get their full strengths going. But you already see Shedeur Sanders taking those tackles. You already see him scrambling at the line. You already see him trying to, make plays. And, if there's no receivers out there, he's not just going to throw the ball away. He's going to try to get some yards. And I think that's a really nice trait to have as a quarterback, and it makes the defense, lose their minds a little bit. They're like, oh, we're expecting you to throw the pass away to the sideline. Oh, no, you're actually going to run and get a goddamn first down. It was just really great to see. And I really did enjoy how the Cleveland Browns defensive line really stepped up to the plate later in the game. The intensity, they got more up into the line. They really crashed into the Panthers, getting those sacks, stopping the run game. It was just really beautiful to see what the Cleveland Browns were doing. I really did enjoy what they did here, offensively too. I did kind of check out, though, once they got Shedeur Sanders out of the game. And, honestly, I will say I was really happy with the performance here. And if we're going to rate, Cleveland Browns today, I'm not going to rate the other game because that game got suspended, guys, but we will rate this game. And if I am rating, the Cleveland Browns performance today on the defensive side and the offensive side of the ball, it's a nice 7 out of 10. A nice 7 out of 10 performance, a good, really ending score too. I mean, the final score was 30-10, so, that means that the Panthers only got a touchdown and a field goal. The Cleveland Browns completely dominated on those goddamn Panthers, and it was a great sight to see. And, and I know you say, it is preseason, and you're also going against the Panthers, so, don't, take this win as, like, a crazy amount of win. But I would say take this win for some good reps, for some nice reps that actually really happened today. Shedeur Sanders actually got to get some real NFL experience. He got to get a couple of touchdown passes. It was really awesome to see, and a nice 7 out of 10 performance. I would say the Panthers were starting out an easy 4 or 5 out of 10, and then they kind of went down to a 3. They kind of just let, the Cleveland Browns completely dominate, completely go absolutely insane on them. So I would say overall, I didn't really enjoy, the Panthers' performance that much. So they're just going to get a 3 out of 10. That's kind of it for them. And guys, I'm really enjoying what we're talking about today. And this will probably just be a shorter episode because, there's some, things going on. But, for the final game, and the most time we're going to talk about today is honestly the main headlining game. We had the Patriots versus the Commanders today. Maye got to, get a hold of the ball today. So we're going to talk about that game next, right after the goddamn break. Now, for the final preseason game for Week 1, we had the Washington Commanders versus the Patriots. I already said when I did my, I think I did my recap. No, not my recap. I did my schedule. We did the schedule recap, and I said the Patriots are probably going to kill the Commanders. Let's just be real. I mean, if you got the secondary string of the Commanders, and then you got, Maye, and you got a really good offensive line about to be in this game, I mean, you might just get fucked up. And certainly for the first game of the preseason, they definitely fucked up the Commanders a little bit, And I would say, honestly, this is a pretty good performance. Now, there was moments, though, where they were kind of just running the same plays. I mean, it kind of felt like the defense of the Commanders side, the second, third string side, they kind of gave up at the end. I mean, who can blame them? I mean, it was already 31 in, the third quarter. And then it was already, 40 in the fourth one. So, I think it was 40 at the end of the third quarter. So, I mean... You got to understand probably why they were feeling that way. But also, too, I just felt like the intensity from the Commanders, it only showed up a few times in this game. There was some moments, definitely, where they got to the quarterback. And there was a lot of penalties, I would say, from the Patriots side. Luckily, they got a lot of them overturned. A lot of them, if they did, But there was a lot of penalties for the Patriots, too. And I would say, for this little quarterback duel from Maye, taking down the Commanders, I mean, he completely destroyed them. Destroyed that defensive line, easily getting in there, just hitting these crazy-ass deep passes. I mean, right off the bat, it was just kind of laughable to see. I mean, there was moments where this man was just hitting video game-like passes, just easily getting over, making these long-ass deep passes, and, their receivers easily catching them, too. These receivers were just, just grabbing these goddamn balls. The Commanders' coverage was not fucking there. I mean, it was just kind of laughable to see sometimes with the Commanders. And then that side from the defense, we'll talk about the Patriots' defense too. I really like the intensity that the second and third string side of the ball was playing. Usually sometimes, I feel like these defensive, line, they don't want to wrap up the players that much. They don't want to put the intensity out there. And you're just kind of like, damn, tackle them already. Wrap them goddamn up. Go absolutely insane. And I'm just like, holy shit, the way the fucking Patriots defense was playing today, I mean, they were playing like this is their last football game. They were just completely just destroying the Commanders' offensive line, doing sacks, stopping the run game, quickly getting to the line, easily getting through that offensive line. I mean, the Commanders' offensive line, it was in fucking shambles. I mean, they were letting all the defenders in that line because holy shit. I mean, it was just crazy to see the way the Commanders were just giving up, just letting them score and score. They were even doing the same running plays. That's how bad the offensive line was actually doing in this game, which was definitely disappointing to see. And, let's get into, the running back from the Patriots. I really did enjoy the running back. And I would say, too, the way the running backs were just, completely getting to the line. The way they were just, cutting through defenders. The way they were just, easy stiff arms. Just easily getting into that touchdowns. I mean, it was just beautiful to see. They just kept running left. They literally just kept blocking left and then running left. And it just kept working. They just kept running into that touchdown. Over and over and over again. It was just beautiful to see. It definitely showed the defensive line just kind of giving up, just, the way they were running in the ball. I mean, the Commanders, they did have a few tackles. They definitely did. There was definitely some moments. But then, they just run left. Or, they do a little quarterback sneak. Or, they just they go for it on fourth down. They were just completely breaking the will of the second and third string Commanders defense was just, great to see and just keeping the Patriots name alive. So if we're going to rate everything, first of all, the offensive side from the Patriots, I mean, easily like an 8 out of 10 performance. I mean, some of these deep balls from Drake Maye was just beautiful to watch. I mean, the way he was just chunking that damn ball. I mean, it was great to see. And then you got moments where you're just sitting there and then you just watch the running back just completely run over this offensive line, completely crush them, completely. So, yeah, rating this offense, guys, I'm probably only going to give them like an 8 out of 10. Really great performance. And then, for the Commanders, I mean, just an abysmal. That second string, third string core, they might need more training reps. I can't even lie to you. So that is probably only going to get like a 3 out of 10. I was thinking more like a 4, but then they kind of just let the Patriots just kind of kick their ass. So I'll probably give them a 3 out of 10 for their performance. And then, star players, guys, it's easily going to be Drake Maye. We had Shedeur Sanders actually step up today. The running backs on these teams, too, just absolutely going crazy. That offensive line, going insane. And then the Patriots, they win by, the score, guys, 18-48. They completely destroyed the Commanders. That was kind of funny to watch, I'm not going to lie. So let me know, guys. Are y'all enjoying week 1 of preseason? And we're not done talking about week 1 of preseason because Saturday, guys, we got a lot more games to talk about. There's probably over like 6 games I'm going to be watching tomorrow. So we got a lot more NFL coverage coming for the preseason, guys. If you're on Pandora, my Pandora people, sorry about that. Make sure you follow the show. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast at, make sure you follow, turn on notifications, guys. We got a big 1-hour episode coming up tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll be giving you a recap of all of the games that come out, guys. It's been Let's Talk Sports Season 1, and, I'm very happy. Very happy seeing Shedeur Sanders, get some touchdown passes. And then Drake Maye, of course, doing what Drake Maye's good at doing, throwing that absolute deep ball, going absolutely insane. And it was disappointing seeing that injury from the Lions today, and the game getting whole suspended. That was definitely something to watch on the NFL, guys. But let me know how you're feeling about preseason, guys. I'll see you later. You have a good one. Bye.